Thank you so much, Ian, and thank you all for coming tonight. I'm very pleased to be here. In many ways, what I'll talk about for 10 minutes is the problem. And the problem isn't just a divorce problem, and it isn't just a Scottish problem. It's really a human problem, but Scotland's farther along in addressing it. So I'm very pleased to be here. So the problem, as I became aware of it, my background first, I was a clinical social worker since 1980, and I worked with children and families. And from time to time, they'd be going through divorce cases and other legal issues. And I really liked conflict resolution. And so I decided I wanted to do mediation, but there weren't mediation jobs in the 1980s, but lawyers were starting to get paid to do mediation. So I figured I'll go to law school. So I went to law school to start my mediation practice with the plan to represent clients in court for 2 years. 15 years later, I stopped representing clients in court as well as doing mediation because I found that my clinical social work background was particularly relevant to family court cases. But what I realized in those combined years is that the families that were in court a lot of the time had mental health issues that weren't being resolved, and so they were busy fighting over this and over that. And so I started thinking there's got to be a solution here. Also, so during the 1990s, I had my law degree. There was a method for treating people with borderline personality disorder called dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. And it was a shift from how you treat people maybe with personality disorders by teaching them skills instead of talking about their childhood for 15 years, which is what therapists were doing. And so I started thinking, how can we do skills? How can we help people going through high conflict disputes learn skills? And how do we help their children? And so what made sense to me is develop skills specific to people going through divorce or separation and custody parenting issues. So in 2007, because I was this crossover, mental health and law, judges in California asked me to give them a seminar on personality disorders because they started recognizing they're part of what's going through family court. And by the way, the statistics say about 10% of people, of adults in many countries, have personality disorders, which means they're stuck in a negative way of relating and they can't get out of it. And so in divorce cases, we saw about 20% were high conflict. Maybe there's an overlap there. If we teach skills that help people possibly with personality disorders, then we may be able to help high conflict families. So I realized high conflict families didn't always have two high conflict parents. Sometimes there was one and sometimes there was two. So it was more of a personality issue than a family issue. And if we understand personalities, they're hard to change, but people can change some behavior if they learn skills, individually learn skills. But rather than get caught up in a battle, if we teach both parents the same skills, they may reinforce each other in a positive way and be able to stay out of years and years of litigation and protect their children. And fundamentally, New Ways is about protecting the children from conflict. So 2007, I gave the judges a seminar on personality disorders. The next year, they said, hey, you have to come back and teach us what kind of orders to give for counseling. And I was thinking, well, not just getting over the divorce, they need new skills, like methods like DBT. And so I thought, what are the most important skills they need? So Megan will tell you that, but what I want to tell you is the pattern that we want to address. So the pattern of high conflict personalities is 4 characteristics. A preoccupation with blaming other people. Not that I'm only 50% responsible for the problem or 25%. I'm 0% responsible and the other person's 100% responsible. That's the way they think. And so we have to address that. Then a lot of all or nothing thinking for solutions, like the child should be with me and forget the other parent. Things like that. Unmanaged emotions, where people start yelling or screaming or running away, doing things that are emotion-driven. Extreme behaviors. We see domestic violence, we see parental alienation, we see child abuse in other forms, and we see these problems in extreme behaviors. And so can we teach these directly? Can we teach people to stop blaming, to have flexible thinking, to manage their emotions and not have extreme behavior? So that became the goal. So I told the judges in 2008, you need to teach them new ways of doing things. But I didn't want to tell counselors what they should teach in counseling. And then I gave a seminar and counselors said, Bill, write a manual for this. So it's like, okay, I'll write a manual for this one of these days. So anyway, that's the background. The problem really is people's stuck behavior, but with repetition, a relationship, with a positive environment, people seem to be able to learn skills enough to move forward and teach their kids the same skills to protect them. Because one thing we know about high conflict behavior is it's intergenerational. And so if you have a high conflict divorce, the kids go through that, they're likely to have similar problems, or else just not trust relationships, which is some of what the research shows us. So fundamentally, this is what I wanted to address with New Ways for Families. When Megan and I founded High Conflict Institute in 2008, this was one of the things we thought we might get to in helping people as we train people to overcome high conflict behavior. So I think that's basically the points that I wanted to address, and that I'm very pleased to be here and be speaking to people on behalf of Shared Parenting Scotland. In my mind, because this is a human problem, we have to start where we can. And people that seem to recognize this and groups that are ready to go, Shared Parenting Scotland seems to be one of those. So we're very pleased to be here, and thank you for that.